Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 56 of the Old Men Magic Podcast. It is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. Thank you for joining us for another episode. We have a lot to discuss, Alex. We went on a Magic the Gathering adventure. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to go all the way back to Tempest to discuss a cycle of cards that's caught my attention. It's a cycle of cards that nobody ever talks about, but I got excited about it, and I'm brewing a goofy deck with it, so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. And we're going to do a review of some new products coming out from Wizards of the Coast. If you're watching us on YouTube, click that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We're growing. We have 131 subscribers now, Alex. I'm getting excited. We're that much closer to monetization. We're that much closer to the point where we can make 0.00001 pennies per view. Also, we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you listen on audio only platforms, you can subscribe there as well. Before we get into the main topics for today's episode, we have a couple follow-ups to last episode. Let's talk about these follow-ups, Alex. Last week, when we were talking Miracle Grow decks again, there were a couple cards in the sideboards that I hadn't seen before. I forgot to mention those, and I want to bring those up today. I say I have never seen these cards before, but you told me that you actually showed me one of them, potentially on the show, and I just forgot about it. Oh. The first one is Legacy's Allure. You have a copy of Legacy's Allure. Alex is showing his real-life copy of Legacy's Allure, a common from Tempest. It is 18 cents, Alex. You're a high roller over there. How many copies do you have?
One or two.
One or two. Damn, man. You can sell those for 18 to 36 cents, potentially. Legacy's Allure is an enchantment. 2 blue. During your upkeep, you may put a treasure counter on Legacy's Allure. Sacrifice Legacy's Allure to permanently gain control of target creature with power no greater than the number of treasure counters on Legacy's Allure. I'm trying to zoom in here.
2 mana control magic that builds over time, like every turn.
Yeah, so I like it. Yes, it builds over time, so you could potentially use it to snag bigger things, but I like it because it's like you said, a control magic that can help you snag a 1/1 one turn sooner than you'd be able to snag a control magic. And the game is full of 1/1s, 1-drops, mostly 2-drops sometimes, that people want to get out early. They're usually pretty obnoxious. Things like Goblin Lackey, things like Mother of Runes, things like Birds of Paradise. That's a 0/1, not a 1/1.
Yeah, I was just about to say, your mana creatures like a bird, you can shut down someone's mana fixing ability right away if you want, and get some yourself. Yeah, you're right though. I was thinking about it more for a long term, but you're right. Using it for a quicker control magic is pretty tempting.
I thought that was pretty cool. Very cheap.
Yeah, I thought about throwing it even into my commander deck, but I was like, I don't want to be drawing that later in the game so much. It'd be better in a smaller deck probably where you get it reliably early on.
That's the problem with it. Yeah, I was going to say it really doesn't do much later in the game, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, they might bring out 1/1s later in the game too.
Yeah, you could still get something valuable late in the game. It's just, maybe a little less likely to be useful to you.
A lot of those things aren't as obnoxious to you late in the game either. Like if you steal your opponent's birds on turn 6, it doesn't do much for you. It doesn't do much to hurt them. But there are other things too that you would want, other low power creatures that you would want to get out of there even late in the game, like Mother of Runes, for instance, which is
different utility creatures. The only bad part about it is that it always takes at least a turn to work, right? Late in the game when you have more mana handy, you might want the instant, effect of the control magic.
Yeah.
But I still like it. I think I want to try to build something with it. I think it'll be fun, and it might fit into a few different types of decks nicely.
The other sideboard card that was in one of those Miracle Grow decks, Mind Harness. This is a weird card. This is not a card that I would necessarily play. I figured there must have been some sort of meta-specific reason for it to be in those particular decks we were looking at.
Okay, yeah.
It's 1 blue enchant creature, put only on a red or green creature. cumulative upkeep of 1 colorless, gain control of enchanted creature.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't remember this card at all. It's from Mirage, and I don't think I've ever seen this.
Nobody ever plays it.
I can't believe I didn't at least run across it, like have one in my commons, or like, is it a common, by the way? Is it a, what did you say?
I believe so.
Uncommon?
I don't know for a fact, but I'm assuming it is 40 cents. 20 cents.
I mean, I don't hate it. Like you said, meta specific probably, or like, I could see using it for things that like maybe have like suicide or sacrifice abilities, kind of, that you can like, that way you can burn it away before you lose it. You know what I mean?
A red or green creature with a suicide or sacrifice ability.
Well, on red or green, yeah.
Yeah, that's not. I don't find this to be that useful. I'm assuming that he threw it in because whatever the tournament meta was like at the time was probably full of powerful red and green decks potentially. I don't know if this might have been even around the Fires of Yavimaya era. This would be pretty good to sideboarding against that. But didn't have much to say about that. I only wanted to bring it up because, like you, I don't remember this at all. And I definitely must have seen it when I was opening Mirage packs back in the day.
I probably wouldn't have ever played it.
Weird card.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
So those are the follow-ups.
Okay.
I want to get into segment 1, Alex. I'm going to call segment 1 Old Men Magic at SCGCon, because we attended our first ever Magic convention this past weekend. SCGCon Columbus, September 1st to 3rd, the world's premier trading card game conventions. Their most premier one obviously isn't in Columbus, but it was still pretty cool.
One of the most premier.
We went on the 1st because it was the first day. It was a Friday. We figured most people would be working. We went on what I thought would be the least busy day because I'm agoraphobic and I don't want to be around that many people.
I wanted to get there when stuff was fresh too, before things were sold out, or
yeah, that's the other thing too. I wanted to browse the wares, and yeah, I wanted to get in there before the dealers sold a lot of stuff. I wanted to see what was available. The SCGCon was free to attend. It was full of special guests, Alex. Elena from Playing with Power, Cal Jones, a Commander content creator, Ian, comedian MTG, other people from Playing with Power, Mike, Ryan, Zeb.
I didn't see a monkey.
All special guests, and us, Alex and Steve, the co-hosts of the Old Man Magic podcast. We were not special guests. We just went. What did we see at the convention center, Alex? The convention center was huge. I did not realize that the Columbus Convention Center was quite that big. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised because they have a lot of huge events there, including like the Arnold Classic every year.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I've probably heard that before, I guess, but
I'm pretty sure the Arnold Classic is still there every year. I don't think it's outgrown Columbus.
They had the Arnold statue. I didn't know that was going to be there. We saw an Arnold statue.
That's why they put the huge statue in. It was all tucked away in Hall D. When we walked in, there were people to the right playing Commander in the command zone. You needed to pay to get into the command zone. We did not do that. We don't even have our first Commander decks built in paper yet. So there was no point for us to go to the command zone. People playing tournaments on the left side of the hall. Modern. I think there was a Wild of Eldraine's event. I think the big event was Modern, a Modern 20K. And in the middle is where you had everything that I was really there for. The artists. They had 6 different artists there. They brought some of their play mats. They all had tokens they were selling. They had prints of their art. And they were also signing cards for people. And then the cardboard, where you had all the vendors. You had a lot of big vendors. The vendors were probably like the high point for me. It was fun to go stare at a bunch of cards that I'm never going to buy. I don't know why that is fun to me.
Yeah, I was having fun looking at all the cool stuff they had. There was some nice selection and nice prices on cards, and we each got to buy a few little cards and look around. It was pretty cool.
I did learn that if I ever do find myself in a situation where I want to go to a convention, and over just the course of a weekend, pick up an entire set of Power 9, it would be very, very easy. There was plenty of power there. You think of it as being rare, and it is still pretty rare. It's not so rare that you can't just go to a convention that's attended by some big dealers and just pick up those cards whenever you want, for the most part. Now, a lot of it was moderate play, heavy play. I did still see quite a few light play pieces of power in the whatchamacallits, display cases and the display cases. The other thing that caught my attention was the number of foils. It was insane. I mean, for the dealers that had high-end cards, they had like different tables set up. Each of the big dealers had multiple tables, like all set up next to each other in like a square or a semi-square. And you'd have like one or two tables with the old school stuff. And then every other table was just like foil, foil, foil modern cards, foil modern cards, foil modern cards. I don't know who is buying all this stuff, but I mean, there must be a huge market for it. Otherwise, these big dealers want to bring it to the big conventions. And all those foil tables, it's not like they were full of Urza Sagas foils and 7th edition foils. It's just anything.
Yeah, I saw a fair amount of modern stuff there that I just skipped because it was just like modern frame. Yeah.
I got my first card signed in person.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I used to have a Mark Poole signed Library of Alexandria that I bought in the 90s from overseas. I sent a money order, I think, to England. And then several weeks later, a Library of Alexandria showed up, and I was like, well, that was pretty cool. I didn't know what was going to happen there. I thought maybe I was just going to be out 25 to 30 bucks, but it actually showed up. I sold that in the mid 2000s, but now I have Mark Poole signed cards again back in my collection. And this time I got them signed in person. It's not a Library of Alexandria. I got 4 Ice Age Incinerates. So that was pretty sweet. If we do this again, if I go back to the same one next year, I'm not going to buy things for a few months, and I'm just going to save up some money and just pick some stuff up in there because there's so many things that I was interested in. Yeah.
It's good to know. Yeah, there was a nice selection. I could have spent a lot more money there. I wasn't sure necessarily what it would be like, but prices were fair. And I saw a lot of stuff that was, and people had like, you could tell that there were some like, collections that had been, absorbed and being resold because there would be like multiple copies of certain cards. They had definitely had duplicates of certain things, even like rare, expensive things. And it was pretty cool inventories to look through.
Yeah, every time we pointed at a card and we're like, can we see that one over there? They would hand us a sleeve and there were like 4 or 5 tucked in.
Yeah, that surprised me a few times. I bought a beta twiddle and there were like 4 or 5 of them in the thing when I asked for it.
And then I was thinking like the gameplay stuff, it was just overall on the left side. People were coming in, they paid their tournament fee. They were over there grinding, trying to qualify for regional qualifiers. And but we didn't really get to see what was going on. It's like there was nowhere to watch. It would be cool to go in the future to like a bigger tournament where I think they had gameplay coverage on screens and stuff like that. So, or like cosplay
contests.
Yeah. None of that there. It was too small for that, but
yeah, there weren't a whole lot of like different things going on, at least for we weren't there for too long, but it was pretty cool. It was fun. I would have liked to, if I know they had constructed Wilds of Eldraine stuff going on, and one of the things was like a 2-headed giant sealed tournament.
Yeah.
And we're way behind what's going on. We would have been, in over our heads on that, but it would be fun eventually to do something like that, or it would have been fun, if it was something I knew more about.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to enter a 2-headed giant pre-release tournament that I also had to pay $70 for because there's too many modern mechanics that I don't know anything about.
Yeah, we would have just been,
I would have blown $70. And our opponents would have got angry at us because we would have been reading every card and asking them to explain everything to us. So okay. That was our first ever Magic convention, SCGCon Columbus 2023. Let's get into segment 1. In segment 1, I'm going to take you back to October 1997 to discuss some cards from Magic's 12th expansion set. It's the first set in the Tempest block. That set is what, Alex?
Tempest.
Tempest, exactly. It is a 350 card black bordered set. It includes 110 commons, 110 uncommons, 110 rares, 20 basic lands. 5 of those cards are a creature type called Licid. And today we're going to review that cycle of Licids from Tempest. I'm going to pull some of these up. I'm going to go to Scryfall because again,
you got the molasses?
Again, MTG Stocks is giving me all sorts of problems. All I want to do is like zoom in so people could actually read as I'm talking, and I'm severely limited with the amount I can zoom in. It's not letting me get any bigger. Don't know why. So I'm going to Scryfall. So what are the Licids, Alex? What the hell's a Licid? I don't know if I don't think it's not a real thing. It's just something Magic made up or they stole from Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not sure, but
I think it's an MTG universe original, I believe.
In the MTG universe, they are parasitic or symbiotic beings with slug-like bodies, generally 6 limbs, and are found on the plane of Wrath. Each is a 1/1 creature with a casting cost of 1 colorless, 1 colored. Each has an activated ability where it can convert into an aura and then back again to a creature, whatever its controller chooses to make it at that moment. Each has a static ability, not Licids, that it confers upon a target creature that it enchants. And the first one that I'm going to look at is called Quickening Licid. You brought up these Licids before. I think maybe I did in a previous episode.
I did, but we might have mentioned them more than once.
We just talked about one, and it was one from another set. And it was the first time I'd ever seen them. And you mentioned that the ability to switch between permanent types can make them really difficult to target with removal. Because you can respond to creature removal by changing into an enchantment. You can respond to enchantment removal by changing it into a creature.
Yeah.
So that makes it quite difficult. Quickening Licid is a common from Tempest. It has no reprints. That's something we'll see that all of these Licids have in common. They've only been reprinted in Tempest, or printed in Tempest, never reprinted. I think that Wizards does not like the Licids. There's something about these abilities that they did not enjoy. I don't know if it made gameplay more difficult. I don't know if it led to
I think they get a little
interactions.
complicated. Plus, like you said, they're difficult to deal with.
Quickening Licid is 1 colorless, 1 white. It is a summon Licid. It is 1/1. You can pay 1 colorless and 1 white and tap Quickening Licid. If you do so, it loses this ability being it's a 1/1 creature. And it becomes a creature enchantment that reads, enchant creature gains first strike instead of a creature. Move Quickening Licid onto target creature. You may pay 1 white to end this effect. It has a score of 2.759 on Gatherer, current market price of 15 cents right here. Nobody plays this card, as you can tell by the fact that it is 15 cents. But I'm going to play this card. I believe I'm going to be the one to break Quickening Licid in my Meddling Merfolk deck, Alex. I like this one overall. I mean, 2 colorless for a 1/1 creature is overcost. Not great. But I like this. I like this ability. I liked it. The ability to change it to an enchantment and then back to a creature makes it difficult to target with removal. And I like First Strike as an ability that I can give other bigger body creatures as I get them out later in the game. So I'm into Quickening Licid. I think 2.759 on Gatherer is unfair. I think it deserves higher. I think there should be a 3. That's
the question is, what are your never mind.
What are my comparators? I'm talking just like general cards. So there's plenty of cards that are I think less playable than this.
What are your other options for giving stuff first strike? But that's not, like none of them are really going to have that, difficult to remove, like returning ability, like, which is more important, really.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. What are your other Licid options then?
Next Licid. Well, it's your only Licid option in white so far. At least to Tempest. Okay. No. We're going to talk about those later. But in Tempest, that's it.
Just in Tempest.
In blue, your option is the Stinging Licid. It is, again, a common from Tempest. Again, no reprints. 1 colorless, 1 blue. Summon Licid, a 1/1. You can pay 1 colorless and 1 blue and tap it. Stinging Licid loses this ability and becomes a creature enchantment that reads, whenever enchanted creature becomes tapped, Stinging Licid deals 2 damage to that creature's controller instead of a creature. Move Stinging Licid onto target creature. You may pay 1 blue to end this effect. So this has a rating of 3.232 on Gatherer, a current market price of 16 cents. I find this one to be incredibly underwhelming, even though it's rated higher on Gatherer than Quickening Licid.
I thought you were going to say something bad about it, but I wasn't sure how you were going to get there the way you started your sentence.
I don't love it. I personally, the 2 we've gone through so far, I'd rather give my creature first strike than enchant opponent's creature.
Yes,
definitely. So that it will sometimes send 2 damage their way.
Definitely. Unless you had some really weird niche like tapping of other people's creature deck, but I'm not interested.
Even that, it would have to be a really weird deck where you tap and then untap and then tap and untap and untap, you know.
Yeah.
Some way to deal more than 2 damage to an opponent's creature per turn. Then maybe we're talking.
Wait, but creature? You mean controller, the creature's controller.
Yes, deal the damage to the creature. No, deal the damage to the creature's controller, but tapping and untapping the creature.
Yeah, tapping the creature, yeah, okay. Like Icy Manipulator deck, you know.
The black Licid is Leeching Licid. Common from Tempest. 1 colorless, 1 black.
Oh.
Summon Licid 1/1. Here you can really see the slug-like nature of the Licids.
Nope.
1, 2, 3, 4. 6 legs, 2 facial appendages.
We don't need any of that.
You can pay 1 black. So this is better mana-wise. It's more mana efficient than some of the things we've seen so far. The white and the blue one require a colorless and a colored. Leeching Licid, we're getting into just 1 black. Tap it. Leeching Licid loses his ability and becomes a creature enchantment that reads, during the upkeep of enchanted creature's controller, Leeching Licid deals 1 damage to that player instead of a creature. Move Leeching Licid onto target creature. You may pay 1 black to end this effect. It has a rating of 3.232 on Gatherer, current market price of 18 cents. I find this to be underwhelming as well. I think cards like this are just too weak. There's too many better ways to spend mana. There's 100 million different ways to spend mana than to put out a 1/1 creature that you can sometimes put on an opponent's creature and turn it into like a cursed land or a warp artifact. Although I do still want to play this card, even though I just described how terrible it is, in a Copper Tablet, Forsaken Wastes, Plague Spitter, Warp Artifact deck.
Those were exactly the 2 comments I was going to make, is that, yeah, like I would compare it to those cards, those sort of like draining you a tiny bit every turn, like 1 damage pinging you, kind of card that are generally not very good, but for some reason I am also have always been interested in trying to make them work in a deck.
Just circle protection everything, and Copper Tablet, Forsaken Waste, Plague Spitter, Leeching Licid. Cop Black, Leeching Licid,
Wall of Hope,
Plague Spitter deck.
Is good.
Wall of Hope.
Mm-hmm. That one I put in that Plague Spitter Pestilence deck.
That's still Leeching Licid. The red Licid from Tempest is Enraging Licid. Again, a common from Tempest. Again, no reprints. Again, you have a slug-like creature attached to this guy's face. Again, it has 6 legs and 2 facial appendages. Enraging Licid is 1/1. You can pay 1 red, tap it. Enraging Licid loses its ability and becomes a creature enchantment that reads, enchanted creature is unaffected by summoning sickness instead of a creature. Move Enraging Licid onto target creature. You may pay red to end this effect. So now we're getting back to a Licid where you might, a Licid that you would want to use on your own creature.
Mm-hmm.
It has a 3.062 rating on Gather, current market price of 20 cents. The market loves Enraging Licid. It gives a high premium over other Tempest Licids to Enraging Licid.
I don't hate this one. This is nice to be able to flip a haste around onto your other creatures.
I think yeah, this is getting a little bit better because it could just sit there as a 1/1 creature until you have something bigger in your hand ready to play. And then kablooey, blam, right at your opponent's face.
Yeah.
Things that have no haste are all of a sudden hasted.
Mm-hmm.
The only bad thing is you have to pay an extra mana to turn it into an enchantment that removes summoning sickness from a creature you just cast. So the great thing about summoning sickness is it's almost like paying less mana for a creature, an offensive creature that you're putting out. If you have a ball lightning,
you mean haste,
for instance, you play it for 3, you get to tap, you get to attack with it on that turn. You've now attacked with a 6/1 trampler on turn 3.
Right.
It's almost like the haste saves you a mana, because without haste, it would be a 3 mana creature that you could put out on turn 3, but then you wouldn't be able to attack with it until turn 4. If you want to give something haste with Enraging Licid, it doesn't really help you early game attack with a creature 1 turn faster because you have to pay that extra mana to give it summoning sickness.
It's
so
more for surprise haste, like later on. Yeah.
You can't tap out and haste somebody to the face, because if you tapped out, you can't activate Enraging Licid. So it definitely has some downside. It's definitely not super exciting, but it's not a bad creature. And it is something, this is a feature that I like of certain cards, that does something both early and late game. Early game, it's an overcosted 1/1, but it's still a 1/1 to get something on the board. Late game, it can provide surprise haste to bigger things that you're bringing in. The last Licid, Alex. From Tempest. From the Tempest Licid cycle. Is Nurturing Licid. It is a common from Tempest. Again, no repeats. Wizards of the Coast hates Licids. I don't know how to spell nurturing, apparently. Although that looked right to me. What's wrong with this, Alex?
There's no R. That says nurturing.
I'm nuttering. Nurturing Licid.
Whoa,
1 colorless, 1 green. 1/1. You can pay 1 green and tap Nurturing Licid, loses its ability and becomes a creature enchantment that reads, pay 1 green, regenerate enchanted creature instead of a creature. Move Nurturing Licid onto target creature. You may pay green to end this effect. Also rated below 3 on Gatherer, 2.809. The Hive Mind
regeneration
on Gatherer does not like Nurturing Licid, although this is the most expensive of the Licid's market price for reasons I can't understand.
It is the most expensive, you said?
None of these will break the bank, but this one is 26 cents. This is the first one that currently reached over 25-cent market price.
Oh, well.
I find this to be underwhelming. I'd rather have trample. When I play regeneration creatures, I often find myself not wanting to leave the mana open to even regenerate the creature. I'm playing green decks. I'm usually going fast. I'm usually trying to operate on low mana. I'm usually trying to ramp out bigger and bigger creatures every turn on curve. I usually don't want to have a mana left over, but still, if you find yourself in late game situations and you do have mana left over, regeneration is helpful. I do love the shit out of River Boa.
The one thing I'll say going back to the last card too, the last cards. The one slight thing that these do that's kind of good is that you can get them out early on when you don't need them and before you may have been able to cast them. So in normal situations, you have to get your creature out first before you can enchant it. This way you can get the enchantment out early, and then the creature comes out later and you can swap it onto it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can sort of like, get your stuff in play for later. And that might help you maybe like trim down on how many cards of an effect you need in your deck.
Yeah. And of course, the other big benefit that I haven't mentioned, this came to mind, of course, when you were just saying what you were saying, but you can bounce it around.
Yeah.
It's a equipment, essentially, that you could put on bigger and bigger and nastier creatures as you generate more mana, as you bring bigger things out as the game progresses.
Yeah, and you can bring it back like Rancor. If they destroy the creature, you can save it and you reuse it, which is nice. Their effects are all just minimal, and this set seemed like they just picked like a really basic ability from each color, a standard basic ability. I don't know, but I've never played with these, so I don't really know how useful they are, how good they are. But like you said, they're all very cheap. So
you're gonna find out soon. You're gonna find out when you face my Meddling Merfolk deck. I don't love regenerate. Green, I'd rather have trample, because like I said, I often find myself not even wanting to leave mana open to regenerate. And if you do have a regenerator in green and you really want to leave that mana open for regeneration, that probably means you're facing an opponent that has even bigger things out than you. And that's probably not a good sign if you're playing a green deck. I'm assuming most people play green decks like me, where they try to overwhelm with creatures. And if you're like, oh man, I need to save this blocker for the creatures that my opponent has coming straight at my face and regenerate it, then you're probably in a bad situation. But I thought I'd rather have trample, but then next I thought, honestly, who the hell needs a green enchantment that gives trample anymore when you have Rancor? But this was prior to Rancor's printing. Now, the listeners at this point of the podcast, if you made it this far, which I'm sure everybody has, might say, why the hell are you looking at Licids, Steve? Alex, say that.
Steve, why the hell are you looking at Licids?
Because, Alex, I'm having fun playing around with a card that we discussed in a previous episode where we looked at budget rares from Tempest. Rootwater Matriarch. I'm playing around with a Rootwater Matriarch deck. Here is my current build. Alex, it has evolved since the last time you played against my Rootwater Matriarch deck. It features 4 Rootwater Matriarchs. Let me shrink this. Come on, shrink down. Zoom. There we go. Got the whole thing in. I can't remember everything I took out since the last time I played against you with this.
Silver Knights?
I don't know if I had Silver Knights in here. Did I have Silver Knights in here?
Yeah, you must have, because remember I was using them against the goblins. You got mad that I drew them when
no, you didn't play you didn't play with my Rootwater Matriarch deck. That you're thinking of the Angel deck.
Oh, I just looked at the Meddling Mage and the okay.
I took out 2 Rootwater Thieves. I used to have 4 Rootwater Thieves. It was called Meddling Merfolk. I wanted to load up on Merfolk. I've reduced the amount of the number of Merfolk I have in this deck. What I wanted to do is use a deck or put together a deck that featured Rootwater Matriarch, which for people who don't remember, let me zoom up on this shit. Rootwater Matriarch is a 2 colorless, 2 blue Merfolk that's 2/3. You can tap it to gain control of target creature as long as that creature has any enchantments on it. So Rootwater Matriarch is the linchpin of the deck. It's the feature card of the deck. And then I want to build it. I wanted to build it into just sort of a general blue-white control shell in the pre-modern format. So I really just wanted to play Meddling Mage. I really wanted to play Mother of Runes. I really wanted to play Gush. in some counter spells. And I'm like, what can I put in a Rootwater Matriarch deck that has Meddling Mage, counter spells, Gush, and Mothers of Ruin? Well, I put in some additional Merfolk because I came across Rootwater Thief, and I was really excited by this because I love these cards where you can search through your opponent's deck and steal something from them. It is 1 colorless, 1 blue, 1/2, tap to give it pay 1 blue. Rootwater Thief gains flying until end of turn. If Rootwater Thief deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, search that player's library for a card and remove that card from the game. Then the player shuffle his or her library. So this card looked just very fun to play to me. I like it combined with Meddling Mage, because with those two things in a deck, if Rootwater Thief hits and you name 1 or 2 things in Meddling Mage, you might be able to shut down whatever it is your opponent's strategy may be.
Lots of different combos. And,
I've only played this deck a little bit. I suspected that the Rootwater Thief might just be a little bit too slow and a little bit too mana hungry to actually get to work very often. That has been my experience with it so far. You need to pay 2 to get it out. Then you need to attack with it. You might need to give it flying, which you have to pay 1 blue for. And then if it flies over something that actually does damage, you have to pay 2 colorless. So it could suck up all your mana on turns 2 and turns 3. It's just mana hungry. Most of the time, if you want to give it invasion and use its special ability, it's going to suck up 3 mana for you. That's mana that you're not going to be able to leave untapped for your counter spells and stuff like that. So, anyways, I go on this tangent about Rootwater Thief because I took out 2 Rootwater Thieves and I put in 2 Quickening Licids. This is something I'm going to try out in this deck for now. I wanted to try to put in enchantments that I could move around and enchantments that I could put on my opponent's creatures and it wouldn't hurt me if they got rid of the Rootwater Matriarch before I was able to steal their enchanted creature.
Yeah, so you can just bounce it back.
Yeah, I've been working with Spirit Links because while Spirit Link isn't removal, it's almost as good as removal.
Negation.
You could Spirit Link their creature, and whatever damage is dealt to you, you just gain right back. So I have, with Spirit Link in my deck, 8 cards that I can use to really negate or eliminate an opponent's early game creature for only 1 white mana. If I Spirit Link it, I have the added benefit of being able to steal it later in the game with Rootwater Matriarch, attack them with it, and gain the life.
Yeah, it's already ready for you. Yeah.
I've been working with Shimmering Wings, which is a 1 blue enchant creature that gives creatures flying, which again, hey, you might not want to give their creature flying and have them nail your Rootwater Matriarch before you can steal it. Then you just gave them a flying creature. But you can pay 1 blue and return Shimmering Wings to its owner's hand. This way you can also Shimmering Wings up their creature, steal it with Rootwater Matriarch, then you have a flying creature. If they bring out another creature, you can return Shimmering Wings to your hand if they put out something that you'd rather have instead, and then enchant that new creature. They'd get their old one back as soon as you remove Shimmering Wings. The Rootwater Matriarch only allows you to keep control of a creature as long as that creature has an enchantment on it. But if they put out something that you'd rather have, you could swap it out for the Shimmering
Wings. Or if they
Wings.
remove it, if they kill the creature now,
Or if they remove it, yeah. I like Quickening Licid for the same reason, because you could use this to bounce it around to different creatures. If they kill the creature that you stole from them, you could put you could convert Quickening Licid back to a creature, so you still have the ability. It's still there available for you to enchant something next. Like if they eliminate the creature, you don't lose your enchantment necessarily.
Yeah,
you can keep this around.
Yeah, well, you've talked before about how
like anything,
how you don't like auras a lot because, you know, of how an opponent can 2-for-1 you, you know, they can like kill your creature and then you lose the creature and the enchantment, like all the investment you've put into it. And so cards like Rancor and cards like this are great for that. It's kind of cool. You think about like how they work out over the game too. It's later in the game, they're almost like, you know, they're kind of like card advantage because
yes,
when you might be running out of cards and things to play, now you have all these enchantments that may keep coming back into your land, refilling your hand, maybe giving you something to like do later on. You know, you don't have to use extra cards to return them from your graveyard or something like that, like you would in a recursion deck or a deck with like, you know, regrowth type spells. So yeah, they kind of keep rolling and working for you.
it is good virtual card advantage. I also like it because, you know, if my opponent doesn't have any creatures out yet or is playing a deck with very few creatures or no creatures, it's not a dead card. You know, it's still a 1/1 creature, which isn't much.
It's at least something, yeah.
But if you're playing a slow control game,
and you have a whole bunch of 1/1s and 2/2s out already.
You're playing a strong control game, maybe you can take them out with some 2/2s and some 1/1s. It can happen.
I like how you put the Oratog in there too. I never think of that card, even though I like enchantments. I like to play with enchantments a lot, like play around with them. But
I've never thought about it. I haven't played this deck yet with the Oratog in it, but I want to see how it works. And it's another reason why I wanted to put the Quickening Licid in. Shimmering Wings and Quickening Licids, I can do, you know, the Rootwater Matriarch thing earlier in the game. And then if I pull an Oratog later, I can swing for one huge attack. I can remove the Quickening Licid or Shimmering Wings from whatever they happen to be on, put them onto the Oratog,
yeah,
and just make one big run.
Death blow, you know, you use it for your, you know, last ditch kill.
I like the Shimmering Wings and the Licid with the Oratog because you don't have to save the enchantments for when the Oratog comes out.
Like have them stacked up and vulnerable to a, you know, removal.
You can put them out, let them do their thing, and then still use them later on if you want to sacrifice them to an Oratog and use them in a different way. So this is why I am focusing on Licids right now. This is why I'm searching through the annals of Magic the Gathering to try to find all of the Licids that were printed. There aren't many lists that were printed. And next episode, we're going to discuss an additional cycle of Licids. A cycle that is, I think, well, it's a stronger cycle of Licids. And I'm going to think about whether or not I want to put some of those into Meddling Merfolk, which will be a tournament-winning pre-modern deck. You're going to hear a lot about this, people. It's going to be huge. But that's it for my Licid cycle. Licids from Tempest. That's it for my Rootwater Matriarch for the moment. Do you have anything you want to add here, Alex, before we move on to the next segment?
I think I added it, but I like that though.
Okay. I'm also building out a sideboard. I haven't built out a sideboard yet. I've started with Teferi's Moat just because I just want to play Teferi's Moat. That's it.
Noted.
This deck started because I just wanted to play Rootwater Matriarch. It turned into a blue-white control deck because I just want to play Meadowlane Mage. And now I just want to play Teferi's Moat. I never see people play Teferi's Moat. But you know what? You get Teferi's Moat down against goblins, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I think it's just a tad expensive is the only problem with it, but it's, I mean, it is not the worst.
I just love moats. I love moats.
I know you do. You're moat man.
Segment 2, Alex. For segment 2, we are not going to talk about nurturing Licid, not nurturing Licid, nurturing Licid. Instead, we're going to talk about the fall 2023 Secret Lair Superdrop.
Oh.
We're going deep into modern Magic.
Okay.
It is available from August 29th. That is the past. Up until September 23rd. That is the future. The sale ends in 26 days. Let me zoom out a little bit here so we can fit all this in. Zoom. I wanted to review the offerings and see if there's anything that might be of interest to me in this Secret Lair Superdrop. I don't know if you've
Through the
browsed
offering.
any of this yet, Alex.
I've just seen a little bit of stuff that got like posted maybe, but I haven't gone on here and looked at it though.
I'm going to start with Magic the Baseballing. Magic the Baseballing is a series of 5 cards that depicts the Gatewatch Lorwyn 5 as baseballers. These double-face cards are designed as classic baseball cards, art by Faye Dalton and Scott Okamura. So you can see 5 classic creatures from Magic the Gathering looking like baseball cards. I don't know how you feel about these, Alex. Same.
I see they're double-sided. I did not know that previously, and it actually makes me like them slightly more, just because it makes them like real baseball cards, that have a back like that.
I liked it less because it looks nicer. It would look worse if everything was packed onto the front. But from a gameplay perspective, you have all of the abilities of the card not on the front of the card.
Yes, no, it makes me want to play it, like use it for play less as like a just on the like shelf kind of thing. It's kind of cooler, but I just overall don't care for this really.
Sorry. This falls into the category of it's not for me. I'm 100% fine with the it's not for me in Modern Magic. When I first heard that, I felt like it was a little bit dismissive by Wizards of the Coast. But then as we've been back in the game longer, I've started to feel exactly that way. I'm just finding the parts of Magic the Gathering that are for me, and I'm enjoying those parts. Not everything has to be for me. This falls into the category of not for me. I was listening to Jake and Joel are Magic, and one of the guys really loved this. He's like, I love baseball cards. I love Magic. I'm going to buy these. I'm going to frame them.
Let's so, cool. Yeah, frame them up.
I think that's probably what a lot of people are going to do. They're just not going to use them as gameplay tokens.
And I'm pretty much with you. My only complaint ever is that like, if people are playing a lot, they have all these crazy different like treatments and stuff, which can be cool. But like if people are playing them, it could really make the playing field like sloppy, confusing, weird, no theme, like not the theme of Magic like it's supposed to. Like I shouldn't say it's supposed to, because but for me, but I still like them trying, and I like them doing different stuff. So like
from an aesthetic position, from an aesthetic perspective, I don't like it on the battlefield. But aesthetically, just as individual pieces of cardboard, they're quite lovely. And I could see why somebody who loves Magic the Gathering and baseball might want to pick these up. $29.99 for the base copies, $39.99 for the foils. When I first saw these, I immediately thought about how I keep hearing people talk about how Magic the Gathering's in its junk wax era. And then I saw these baseball cards and I was like, did they do this because they're being self-aware and they're like, here's our junk wax Magic the Gathering cards? Or were they just like, oh, what haven't we done yet? We haven't made baseball card Magic card. Let's do that. I think it's probably the latter.
It's probably inevitable.
Yeah, definitely. Next one I'm going to look at. The other Secret Lair, I feel the same way about this Secret Lair as I felt about Magic the Baseballing. It falls just into the category, and a lot of the Secret Lair Superdrop cards in this batch fall into this category for me. Magic cards that just aren't close enough to Magic cards for me to be able to want to even put them in a deck. Now on VHS.
Oh boy.
A Rewind, a Food Chain, a Rampant Growth, and the First Sliver. It is a Secret Lair that depicts 4 cards as worn out rental videos from the 90s. I would say totally unnecessary. I feel the way I feel about these. I feel about these the same way I felt about the cereal box cards when they made the cereal box Secret Lair. I can't remember when that was. It was fairly recently. They might have done it more than once. But I don't need my game pieces to look like a cereal box. I don't need them to look like a VHS cassette. These don't even necessarily look like VHS cassette boxes to me. Like they don't really remind
little
me.
bit. Some of like the stickers on them, how they have the stickers that are dinged up and stuff like that. That kind of, but I mean,
I don't think they went far enough to even make it look like a VHS box,
Yeah.
if that's really what they were going for. I do want some food chains, but I don't want it to look like a VHS box. That's my comment on the now on VHS Superdrop.
Yeah, like I don't know. The idea of making like a poster of something in a VHS cassette style is kind of neat to me, like artistically. I don't really understand what it has to do with Magic. I know it doesn't really have to do lots with Magic for some of these crossovers, but like just going with like the VHS thing, it just has like absolutely nothing to do with
It's
Magic
just
Gathering.
it's pretty random. Nothing to do with Magic, and like the baseballing, at least it had everything to do with
people who cards,
cardboard collecting. Exactly. This is just really off the wall and almost random to me. My one thought is maybe they're just going for the nostalgia market. They know that there's a big nostalgia market for people who played Magic the Gathering in the 90s, and they're just thinking to themselves, what are people who were kids in the 90s generally nostalgic about? And they're just going to try to make Secret Lairs with all focused on all those things. I don't know.
Rewind is such a like obvious pick for this that I'm almost wondering if like they like started with Rewind and they like VHS set.
That's very true. That's probably how it happened. That's probably it. It doesn't look like a Magic card. 2 colorless, 2 blue, instant, counter target spell, untap up to 4 lands. At least this, I mean, at least it's legible.
True. It's legible.
At least it's legible. I can't say that for all of the Secret Lairs in this Superdrop.
Oh, what's coming? I haven't
The next
seen
one,
so I'm going to be surprised.
I'm old. I want my Magic cards to look like Magic cards. I do love this. I'm negative about all these so far, but I do in general love Secret Lairs because I love.
Me too.
I love giving artists more opportunities to make more art for Magic the Gathering. The next one is Bugging Out. It's 1 Eldritch Evolution, 1 Giant Ataphage, 1 Noxious Revival, 1 Grist the Hunger Tide, 1 Mazarek Crowl Death Priest. These are just too wild for me to even be able to figure out. I have a hard time reading this. Eldritch Evolution. Sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Exile Eldritch Evolution. Okay, so even my old man eyes can read this. I can't read it if I try. But it's not that legible. Aesthetically, it's everything. It's in every way antithetical to what Magic design stood for at the beginning, which is you're supposed to be able to like, I mean, the art was simple. It was illustrative. It was eye-catching, but at the same time, it was designed in a way that somebody across the table could very easily and immediately see what it is that you were trying to play. Yeah. And this is not that at all. It's so busy that it's just an art piece and not necessarily a Magic card. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. They're kind of hard to read the way the writing's blended and small, and it looks like a crowded comic book text that you're having to get close to read. But I really do like the art's wild. It's just cool. I would like these as a poster or a print, to hang on a wall. 5 cards depicting neon horrors created by Wooden Cyclops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like if R. Crumb was obsessed with depicting neon horrors instead of women with cartoonishly large buttocks, thighs, and breasts.
This is the vibe that it gives me. It's a little bit crummy. Don't know. Next one, Alex. Absolute Annihilation.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Absolute Annihilation is what it's called.
No questioning.
4 black and red colored cards with art by TOM077 or T0M077 depicting acts of aggression. Flavor text in all caps. That is also written in all caps. 1 oppression, 1 abrade, 1 mass hysteria, 1 terminate. It's a very cohesive set. Aesthetically, when I look at these all together, my eyes enjoy it more than the others we've seen so far. $29.99 for the base set, $39.99 for foils. I love Terminate, but I still would rather just pick up a standard Terminate, an original Terminate. There's nothing here that I want to potentially pick up like a cheaper alternative art copy of. Like I like it, but again, I still think I'd rather have all the originals. Oppression, enchantment. Whenever a player casts a spell, that player discards a card. Abrade, 1 colorless, 1 red, instant. Choose 1. Abrade deals 3 damage to target creature or destroy target artifact. I like that card. Never played with an Abrade. Haven't gotten that far yet in the sets. Mass Hysteria, 1 red, enchantment. All creatures have haste.
Oh.
And then Terminate, 1 black, 1 red, instant. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. I enjoy this aesthetically, and these actually look like game pieces.
Yeah, they look pretty cool. I like the art on the Abrade. It's kind of like it's weird.
Yeah, this person has a good style. An enjoyable style for me. It's busy, but aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. Bugging out, not necessarily. People have different opinions. It almost looks like a woodblock style to me in some ways. Reminds me almost of woodblock. Now to my favorite Secret Lairs. I'm going to call them artist spotlights. They're not called artist spotlights, but that's what I'm calling these. First one is featuring Gary Baseman. Gary Baseman, Gary Baseman. I don't know if you know Gary Baseman, Alex. I never heard of him before.
I do not.
This is a 5-part panorama spread across a cycle of basic lands in a whimsical style, created by the influential artist Gary Baseman or Gary Baseman. Very spooky.
Yeah,
but at the same time, adorable.
Yeah, I like this. This is definitely like some weird animation style. It's a little Ren and Stimpy-ish to me.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. It reminds me in a lot of ways of Ren and Stimpy. I'm not really sure why. I think it's the eyeballs.
Yeah, like yeah. Well, Ren and Stimpy, I think, it was playing off of a lot of that like old animation style, like really, really old, like black and white animation and stuff. And this definitely has that kind of vibe.
I think this guy's primarily an illustrator. I don't know if he's an animator also. I should look into some of his stuff. $29.99 for the non-foil cards, $39.99 for the foils. I don't know how the lands tend to do. I have to look at this. There's just so many different lands. I wonder when it comes to buying Secret Lairs, this is what I need to look into. Which ones, are there any patterns that people have picked up on as far as what tends to hold value or increase in value? And I wonder how the land cycles do, the land Secret Lairs do.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've seen high prices attached to some of them. I don't know if that falls off eventually and, they come down. And I know it doesn't happen to all of them for sure. It has to be like a hit. I've also heard people talk about how like value-wise Secret Lairs are sort of like we're like, what am I trying to say? past a certain point with them. Like it was the early secret lairs that had the most value before they sort of caught on, and now we're in like a new age where they're printing them more and print, you know what I mean?
The junk wax phase of secret layers.
Yeah, that sort of idea. But I don't really know. I don't look into it too much.
I really like the green one.
Yeah, the green one's neat.
What kind of deck would I put this in though? And you put it in some sort of, I was gonna say maybe like a mad fairy deck. Are there any psycho fairies? But then you would want the islands.
Something kind of spooky though. The green one definitely is kind of spooky. You put it in a black-green deck. I feel like it's kind of like a Halloween-y kind of deck. The theme, not the card, Halloween. Or I mean, never mind. Yeah, the only issue I have with these is that like if you just get one of, you're gonna have one of each of those lands, and they're gonna not fit in with the deck really very well. Probably they're gonna stand out a little bit.
That is the thing with these land cycles. What are you gonna do by 20?
Yeah, it is cool though. I'd put them on a wall. They'd look nice, framed.
Artist series, Kev Walker. 4 cards by Kev Walker, Magic's most prolific artist of all time. I wonder when he started. I don't remember Kev Walker. I wonder if he first started illustrating for like right around when we stopped playing Magic, or maybe when we weren't quite as involved. Part of the artist series, Kev picked the cards, created the art, and wrote the flavor text about a hero's hopeless crusade against the cruelty of gods. That's something I'm crusading against every damn day. 1 Feyburrow Elder, 1 Carnage Tyrant, 1 Fleshbag Marauder, 1 It That Betrays. Magic's Mirage set is when Kev Walker joined. I wonder what he illustrated in Mirage. I don't remember. More than 470 pieces of art since 1996 Mirage set. Wow. Incredible. Ooh. Feyburrow Elder is a tree folk.
I like that picture.
Gets a +1/+ vigilance, +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control. Tap for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. Ooh, so it's a mana tree. Carnage Tyrant, 4 colorless, 2 green. Dinosaur. I just can't put dinosaurs in my decks, Alex. 7/6. This spell can't be countered. Has trample and hexproof.
Yikes.
That's pretty good for 6 mana. I wonder if there was I don't know when this was first printed, but I wonder if it was like the major beater in the set when it first came out. This was the Timmy card, the feature Timmy card. Fleshbag Marauder. Great name for a black card. 2 colorless, 1 black, 3/1. Zombie Warrior. When Fleshbag Marauder enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. And It That Betrays. 12 casting cost, 11/11. Annihilator 2. I don't know what that means yet. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. It That Betrays. I don't have any need for any of these cards, but I'm into this.
Yeah, they look good.
I like the different creatures that are featured. I like the art.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my favorite. Probably my favorite of the fall 2023 Secret Layers in the Superdrop. That's about it. That's my review.
Very good.
Nothing that I'm going to be picking up right now. There's some cool interpretations there, some cool styles, most of which I don't feel like are great Magic cards. Might be great art, not necessarily great Magic cards. I do love the Kev Walker one though. Okay, Alex.
Uh-oh.
We're going to move on to segment 3. This is the last segment of the episode. It's the last segment of every episode of the Old Man Magic podcast in 2023. It is the Old Man Magic Commander Corner. This is where Alex and I start to learn about Commander. Sometimes we read some articles about Commander. Most of the time, we just build our first ever Commander decks. We're building old frame Commander decks. It's Alex's first Commander deck. It's my first Commander deck. Mine is built already. It is called the Pump. It was inspired by Pumping Iron from the 1970s Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary, where he dominated Lou Ferrigno and others on stage to win his last Mr. Olympia title. I don't remember which one it was. Maybe his fourth, maybe fifth, maybe seventh. I can't remember.
Moving on.
Alex is not finished building his yet. He's almost done. Alex's deck is called Group Mud. It is inspired by mud. His commander is Corona False God.
Love mud.
It's a 5-color deck. Currently has 23 creatures, 7 sorceries, 10 instants, 3 artifacts, and 20 enchantments, 32 lands. You can see that it is very enchantment heavy. He has a number of cards, particularly creatures, that synergize with enchantments. It was originally conceived of as a group hug deck, but I think you've kind of gone a little bit away from that direction.
Yeah.
You turned it more into a pillow fort deck.
Turned it into a defensive deck, and it's kind of enchantment-based defensive deck. No, it's kind of, it's not super violent deck. There's not really any removal, not things that are, I'm trying to like be diplomatic and not piss people off. I'm just gonna bounce things and give them reasons not to attack me, let them fight amongst themselves, maybe throw a little group hug spice into the pot.
You got a goddamn coin flip card in here, Alex.
It's not a coin flip card. No.
Why did I think it was?
Because it's wacky.
A listed auction
card. It is no.
Oh, you bid life
here at all. It's just I just want to play it in a multiplayer game, so it had to go in my first commander deck.
Not a coin flip card. Bidding life. What are you adding today to this deck?
I'd like to make a substitute. Well, first let's put some land in because we're getting to the end of the land. I want to finish
more
that
land.
So I can get a final count. What
you did promise the viewers planes this week, right?
Okay.
Is that what you were going to do? We don't have to.
I don't know. I can't see the land because it's not. You're scrolled down to my land, so I can't see it, Steve.
You don't know what's in your deck. You don't have the deck list memorized, Alex. Even I know you promised the viewers planes.
Yeah. Plains probably. Yeah.
You did
plains.
forests already.
Plains in.
You did islands last week.
Like 4 plains, I guess.
Plains.
Tempest. Stick with these Tempest lands for now.
What about Gary Baseman plains? Can we add those? Does Moxfield give you the opportunity or the ability to add Secret Lair versions of cards? Scrolling all over the place. I'm a scrolling mess right now.
That's good.
Switch printing. Let me do this real quick. Filter sets. Secret. Yeah, you can select Secret Lair drop. Okay. Second, I Godzilla. You don't want to add. Come back to me. You don't want to add the Godzilla planes, Alex?
That's not bad. I mean, yeah, I do, but no, I will not.
When did that come? Tempest. Okay, I got distracted by Godzilla.
That's wouldn't we all?
Which one?
Top one.
4 planes.
Sure, that'll give
4.
me 36 lands. I think that's like what I'm supposed to have or something, right? I don't know.
I don't know. Somewhere around 40 should be decent, and then you'll just adjust.
Yeah.
Adjust from there after some play. 4 planes have been added to Group Mud. 36 lands. Plus 2 mana rocks. Alex is playing
One of those
Soul Ring.
amazing death too. That doesn't produce mana, so I'll need something else. What's my total number?
Total number of cards.
Yeah.
In the deck right now. I could just add it all up, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to hit the playtest button. It says 92 in your library.
The very bottom left in the purple band.
Oh, does it?
Deck list.
92 in your library and 7 in your hand. So you're at 99 cards already?
And the commander, right?
And the commander. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I just have to
it is built
and tighten it up. One thing I'll do today is I'll take that bribery out. And I think I'll put a control magic in instead. Normally I like the bribery more, but control magic's an enchantment. It's 1 mana less. It'll work with this deck.
I I've never noticed. I've been screwing around in Moxfield all year. I've never noticed that there's this purple bar along the bottom that tells you how many cards you have in your main deck.
Yeah,
how
it
many
took
in
me
your
a while
sideboard.
to find it too. I was like, it's got to say it somewhere on here, but it's real small. It kind of blends in.
And it tells you how much it costs to build your deck. This would currently cost you $2,500 to put together this deck.
Have dual lands and a Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, the dual lands.
I'm gonna change one of those two eventually. I'll put
bye-bye to the sorcery. Hello to the control magic. Let's add an alpha control
something
magic.
That's just like a strictly better control magic at this point. I'd imagine there probably is.
You would think there would be, yeah.
Even in pre-modern, there's probably something better, but I haven't like looked at that yet. So for now, I'll just do that as a tweak.
I haven't come across a strictly better control magic in pre-modern.
Yeah, I haven't seen one randomly, and I sort of thought I would if there was one, but who knows?
What set are we using?
Oh, unlimited.
Damn boy. You're showing out.
Yeah, I'll have to take out one or two cards, probably put some land in. I might put like a chromatic sphere in for a little more like mana rock action, etc., etc. But it's getting there for my janky, weird 5-color defensive deck.
We're both built. We'll have to play them, see how they work. It'll be, I mean, we can still play them one-on-one.
Yeah, I think mine will be super bad one-on-one.
Well, that's the thing.
Designed to be,
That's it will be probably, but it still will give us an idea of like how it functions.
True, yeah. So
like
what some of my opening hands will be like, and yeah.
It'll help you, I think, revise. It'll help me revise too, even though the decks, they won't go well just 1v1. Dual commander, I think that's what people call it.
Oh, okay.
1v1 commander.
DUAL?
Yes. No, I think it's DUEL.
That's what I meant, but I spelled the wrong one.
Yeah, and I figured that's what you meant, and I just blindly said yes, even though my brain is like,
trust
me. He spelled the wrong dual, but my mouth just went yes. Yes.
Dominating Licid.
Yes. Okay, Alex. Group mod is complete. Awaiting revisions. The pump also we're reading.
Prototype version. Done.
Yeah, version 1.0. Beta. Group mod beta. The pump beta. I think that's it for.
Huh?
That's it. That's all I have for today. What were you gonna say?
Okay, no, I was just gonna say it was a little trickier than I haven't worked on this a ton. I've mostly, we've been picking at it and goofing around, but like a little bit harder than I thought. I wasn't thinking about how many lands I would need. Initially, I was like, oh,
I told you.
Super excited that I had this like big deck full of singleton slots. I was like, I put anything I want in here. And I was like, oh man, but when you think about, some of the constraints you have after land and like, filling different roles, it gets tighter than you would think quicker.
I told you, Alex. This all started with me being like, oh, we should learn how to play Commander. And as part of that learning process, we should build on the podcast our first ever Commander decks to learn the process of building a refined, well-tuned Commander deck. And you're like, what do you need to know? It's just building a deck. And I'm like, well, it's 100 cards.
I didn't say that.
And it's that's what I remember. It's 100 cards and it's singleton. It's very different than building
definitely
a 60 card constructed.
Yeah.
So it was a good exercise. We'll see how our terrible decks perform.
Yes.
I'll have to bring mine somewhere to actually try to play in paper.
I am excited. I think this deck, especially once I make some tweaks to it, and stuff, it might, I think it'll be fun to play in a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Even if bad. It'll be bad, but it'll be fun.
You have built a deck that's very much in the spirit of multiplayer Commander. I've built a deck that's just sort of like a scaled up 60 card deck because I wasn't sure quite what to do. I have some Commander cards in there. Cards that I specifically put in because I'm like, oh, this would be fun in multiplayer. But
you have a lot of synergy too, though, and I feel like you can just like keep like churning the same kind of threat to people like over and over. It's like it seems like a steamroller kind of like, I don't know, scary.
I did try to do that because Commander is very much about synergy. So I did spend more time thinking about synergistic interactions
Mhm.
I think you have to do that in Commander too, because you're just dealing with one-ups. You can't pick like 2 to 3 cards that you want to make the feature of your deck and put 4 ofs in there. You have to start with some things that you really want to play and then maybe pick versions of them that are lesser than, or think more about synergy.
Mhm.
Okay. That's it. That's it for episode 56, Alex. We're
That's
done.
it.
It's done and dusted. I'm sweating. I'm looking forward.
Hot one.
I'm looking forward to the temperature decreasing. I'm looking forward to fall. And then it will turn into winter. And then I'll be happy about that for a month. And I'll be cranky that it's cold. And then I want to get warm again. And then the cycle will repeat. If you've made it this far into the podcast and you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please subscribe on YouTube or whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the people who like our podcasts, videos, and our shorts. Really appreciate it. Alex, do you have anything to say to the viewers before we sign off for today?
Can I give you a little rulings tip that I just learned?
A what tip?
Rulings tip?
Sure.
I came across this as I was reading a blurb about madness. Effects that cause you to pay more. This might be obvious to you. You know, I never really thought about it. But effects that cause you to pay more or less for a spell, such as Nightscape Familiar, the familiars, will cause you to pay that much more or less for its madness cost too.
Doesn't make sense, but I never thought about it. I haven't thought about madness. I do. We need to learn about that. We need to learn about that. That's going to be a 2-part series too, where we go through pre-modern legal madness cards, talk about some of the early madness decks. That can be a 75-part series.
Yeah, I just started looking at it. I've seen some that I like so far, but I haven't really, you know, I just started trying to play around with some in a deck. So yeah.
Okay.
Talk about
Future
that.
topic to be continued.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks, Steve.
Talk to you later.
Later.